Good morning, party people. I am rapidly running out of time. I could stay around here another couple weeks, easy. You know, I'm glad there's people that are allowing me to help them. But man, I got some stuff to do, especially today. I got to go back and talk to Gregory, P1800. Unfortunately, I think his transmission is shot. Pulled that transmission away from the engine yesterday. Found the pilot bearing broke. I actually think I broke that pulling that transmission off the engine. But the clutch looked worn, didn't look destroyed. He said that he really had no warning that something was going wrong with that transmission. It just all of a sudden quit running good and he limped it home. So unfortunately, I think his transmission may be bad. When we got the transmission off and did a few other things, I looked down and man, there was a lot of oil in that bell housing. When I pulled the flywheel off, there was almost no oil at the rear main seal. It looked pretty much dry. So I think his output shaft seal off of that transmission leaked maybe most of the oil out and caused a failure inside that manual transmission. That car's a 1973. You can't go down the street and get one of those transmissions. Not that I know of. This is New York. There may be something I don't know about. Anyway, got to check on a couple more folks later today. I'm headed down there bright and early this morning to try to finish up whatever we're going to decide to do on that P1800. Pull a head off that engine he got from me. Take that, rebuild it, bring it back maybe next spring or so. Put that engine together and install it in his car. And also need to try to take care of a couple more folks before I leave here. Tomorrow's the day. So if you got any questions, call or text. Hope to see you guys soon. Welcome to Hanging Out with Robert. That's me. This video contains things that I tinker with throughout the day. For step-by-step detailed instructions of those tasks, you can click on the links in the comment section below. I plan on leaving this video accessible for about 30 days. After that, you can view it through my Patreon account. This video also have tips and tricks that I've learned over the years. So, thank you very much for watching. Finishing up my walk. I put a heater core in here last night, but I did not have time to connect the coolant lines. So I'm going to kick this off, hook up these coolant lines to the heater core, go get me some breakfast, and get this day started. Let's get cracking. I really can't tell the difference in these connectors, but I do see the difference in those holes right there. They are different. Not sure how. Anyway, let me get this stuff together. I'm assuming the one on the right goes in the top. The one on the left goes in the bottom. Put a clamp on the top hose, not the bottom. Took those loose, took them off. I take the plastic pieces, slide them in the junction till you hear them click in there, hold into the junction. Then you take the hose, massage them into the junction through the clips until you hear the hoses click. And you're good to go. Then you go start the car up, come out here, make sure coolant's not flowing out. Didn't get any seals crimped. No evidence of a leak. We should be good to go. Let me go get my breakfast. Hey, the car started after my spark plug change. Don't hear a misfire. That's good too. One of my viewers gave me this brown line angle torque gauge, digital. So I'm gonna try this thing out, see how accurate it is, see how it works. First off, you gotta get you a small screwdriver. Take those two Phillips screws out and put some batteries in it. It's supposed to take 2 AA batteries. So I got the screws out, turned out. I think turned out as far as I could get them turned out. Let me grab it with 2 hands. Maybe they're not out yet. Yep, got it out. Let me put 2 batteries in there. Got the 2 batteries in there. It's got these hooks that hook that thing under there like that. work that in there, screw it in. You can test it before you screw the back on, but I went on ahead and screwed it on. Hold the power button for 3 seconds. Didn't take that long. Calibration. I don't know what that means. Guess I need to read the instructions. I just set it still. It's set. Now supposedly this thing magnetizes itself onto a tool that you swing and gets its position. Maybe it's got some kind of sensor or something that's sensing where it's at. But let's go ahead and put this thing on the tool. You can set it for how many degrees you want to add to your torque. That's 60 degrees. And hey, it's got a little battery indicator up there. Alright. Oh, somehow set it to 6 degrees. No, we'll set to 60. I don't know what happened there. That's interesting. Let's go ahead and set it back to 60. Alright. Select. Wow. Okay, so when you're ready to torque, you hit select and then go ahead about it. So let's power it off. Put it in the case, keep it safe. Go check it out. Take the 12 millimeter out of here.
All representatives are still busy assisting other guests. Your call will be answered in the order it was received.
So
please continue to hold.
This screw out here, and that screw out here, so I can pick this forward, pull this out. Pull the cover off the top of the engine.
You think I should see if I can get one of those?
Next, we're going to disconnect the fuel rail, pop the fuel rail loose, get that out of the way so that we can get the bolts to take the intake manifold off. This line stays on the car. This line stays with the fuel rail. Put the fuel line release tool on the line. That kind of sucks. That one is actually too big. Let me see if I got a smaller one. Didn't have the release tool, so you got two options. One, you can pull the rail loose and disconnect the line from the back of the rail. That piece right there. Slide it out of the rail, leave it connected. Two, you can take a couple of small screwdrivers like this, poke them in there, release the springy clips while you're putting a little pressure on, and it'll come loose. You see in there, it's got two springy clips. Let me add some light to this subject. You got a springy clip that side, springy clip that side. So you push those out while you're pulling on the line. Come loose. Took the two 10 millimeters out of the fuel rail. I'm going to go ahead and bump the bottom of the fuel rail with a tool like this and pop all the injectors out and pull that fuel rail off to the side. Now I have easy access to the bolts there. See, somebody crimped this hose here, so. The owner of the car ordered an all Volvo kit. However, it came with two Reigns parts made in Turkey. I'm not sure if these are actual Volvo quality parts or not. They need to be in a Volvo bag for me. That's why we're here, because a couple of these parts are not Volvo, melted away. Hit this first bolt over here. That thing was almost finger tight. I don't know if that was an intake leak or not. Let's see if this one's tight. Yeah, this one's, man, barely tight. So let me keep taking this intake manifold loose. That one's a little tighter. And work on getting this intake manifold out of the way. We have the top 3 bolts out, the lower 3 bolts loose. I'm gonna see if I can pivot this intake off of here. The lower 3 bolts are loose. I use this long, man, I don't know how long this thing is, 10, 12 inches, 1/4 inch drive, and stuck it under that 17 pipe. So I want to lift this up a little bit, then I'm gonna work on that 17 millimeter bolt on the bottom of that intake manifold. Man, that bolt is what makes the whole job a horrible job. You got to be very careful not to break this brake vacuum check valve. I took it loose from here, I took it loose from down there, then I pulled this hose that was over here to your purge valve off of it. I took the top turbo hose off. It was real soft. The owner went to get another one of those. I pulled the screw out of here, T25, the 8 millimeter out of there on both sides, so I could push this forward and lift off the relay piece that goes over there. I pulled this relay off. So took the cover off the engine. Now I'm gonna see if I could drain some of the coolant out. I'm gonna drain about 1 gallon of the coolant out, and that will make the level low enough so when I pull this bolt out, I shouldn't lose a bunch of coolant when I pull that bolt out, because that hose goes to the bottom of the thermostat housing. A few of these year models, starting in '99, they ran coolant around a banjo bolt here and then over to the side of the engine back there. And that coolant supposedly kept this little valve here from icing up, so you really need to clean out that valve when you take this banjo bolt out. If you don't clean that out, you could have PCV issues as well. While I'm waiting for the owner to come back, I think I left my catch pan over somebody else's place, so I can't catch the coolant. I'll wait for him to come back to give me a catch pan. I believe we have cam seal leaks. If you see this thing here, this plug, man, somebody tried to seal that thing in there with goop, and the thing's hanging out of the engine. So I'm gonna pop that out. We also have oil down here, so the rear one may be leaking as well, the exhaust cam and the intake cam. So we're gonna pop this plug out, put 2 cam seals inside on the cams, and then put that stuff back together. I'll do that while I wait for the owner. In this video, we're going to do the rear cam seals on this Volvo. It's a '99 V70R. It's got a RN engine. There's several ways to know if you have a N engine and a RN engine. The first thing is you have VVT hubs and VVT hub sensors. You have coil packs in the RN engine. You have this funny manifold on the RN engine. You do not have distributor rotor. You do not have spark plug wires, because the individual coils, they are wired in individually. You have your fuel line that comes up through the rail there. You have an ETM, electronic throttle body module. So those are your main difference in your RN engines. The benefits of the RN engines is that timing can be adjusted better by the computer on the fly. It's supposed to give you a little bit smoother operation, it's supposed to give you better gas mileage, supposed to give you better power bands in your drive and stuff like that. And with this electronic throttle body, you can feel the difference in driving a car with an RN engine and a N engine when they're properly equipped with all the other things. Electronic throttle body, ignition coils, stuff like that. So the cars drive and perform a little better than the in-engine cars. The downside of it is they're a little harder to work on. They got more sensors. They develop leaks that are more difficult to fix and stuff like that. So anyway, we're going to do the rear cam seal on this engine. First thing you want to do is disconnect this over the engine pipe. You got a clamp there, you got a clamp over there, and you have a bracket here that I think is a 12 millimeter. So I'm gonna disconnect this bracket here and these two clamps, lift this over the engine pipe up and out of the way. Then I'm going to move this intake tube that goes down to the turbo, get that out of the way. I'm gonna get the air box top or the entire air box out of the way. Then I'm gonna pull this engine mount, torque arm mount, out of the way. Then I'm gonna pull the mount base out of the way. Then I'll have access to the cam sensor. I'll remove the cam sensor, and then I'll have access to the cam sensor pickup ring in there. I'll remove that. Then I could remove the cam seal. And this one just has a plug on it. There's rarely a seal in there. It may not have a seal in there, I don't know. But since I'm traveling, I won't be here to deal with it later. We're definitely going to pull that plug out, put a cam seal in there, and probably reuse this plug. I'm going to try not to destroy it getting it out, since it's already hanging halfway out. But this is normally actually the cam seal for the intake cam. You could put a real seal inside, which is what I believe we're going to do here, and then put that cap on the outside, so it'll have two seals on the intake cam, one seal on the exhaust cam, and hopefully fixing this PCV system will prevent any future leaks. Now, I tell people Volvo seals, man, I don't use any others. Some people like to use other seals. You pay for that in a couple years because you got to have the job done over because the seals are leaking. These seals may not have been in there that long. I think this car might have had a cylinder head job, I don't know. But anyway, it's had somebody in here working on the wire harness, working on the PCV. All this stuff's been worked on before, especially that plug in the back of that intake cam seal. I'm gonna start off by disconnecting the ground on the battery. It's always a good idea to disconnect the battery when you're working in the engine bay, and make sure all your windows and things are how you want to leave them, because if you don't get done or it starts to rain, this battery's disconnected, going to slow you down and getting that stuff back up. 7 millimeter on that clamp, on the clamp back there, 12 millimeter here. Move this OTE pipe out of the way. Oil buildup in there is normal. That does look like a lot to me. So it's possible that the PCV system's bad, sucking a lot of oil into the turbo inlet, or the turbo could be going bad. We'll pull the intake tube on it, check it for shaft play, stuff like that. But you always want to put something in the inlet so you don't drop nothing down there. That, not as important, but stuff a rag in there too. Pull the OTE pipe over the engine pipe off. Went to stuff something in this pipe. I see this thing is torn, probably clear through right there on the bottom side of the clamp. I see a tear in there. This is probably a major boost leak, causing this car not to have power. But anyway, that hose was soft. We'll probably order a rip kit for this car. Get rid of all these hoses. Usually, if you have a hard time getting this air tube off of this mass airflow sensor, I'll unclip the box and pry it off. When that thing's cold, sometimes they hold on real tight. Can't get them off. With the air inlet tube off, I'm gonna reach my hand down there inside the front of the turbo, see if I could pull it in and out or wiggle it up and down, just to see if there's any wear in the turbo. Chances are probably not. It's just a busted up PCV system and these turbo tubes that's causing all this oil saturation around here. Took my glove off, felt that turbo, felt great as I expected. Somebody put an IPD turbo control valve on this one. 1, 2, 3. Pull the bolt out of here to get this top torque arm off, and in doing that I noticed rubber sticking out from under the mount. So this mount back here is totally torn out, so that'll need to be replaced. Firewall mount. Make a list of this stuff and take care of it when you can. So now I can get these 14s out of here, get that top piece off, then work on the side lower piece. Before you lift this top bracket off, see if the ground wire is screwed into it. When I went to pull this one up, somebody had set a bolt in there and had the ground wire sitting on there, but it wasn't secure. So when I went to grab it, the bolt fell down there somewhere. Got that out of the way. This is probably a better place for this ground to be connected to, and not that mount, but it wasn't even connected. It just had a screw set in there. So the games people play. Next, I'm going to remove this screw here. It looks like a 10, so I could move this hose and get a couple screws out of these bracket, so I could swing that bracket down. Then I'll be able to get the big 14s from the bracket on the side of the engine, take this out and get these 14s off the top of it, so I can get this bracket out of the way and get to that cam seal back there. Usually when I pull a screw out of a bracket, move the bracket or clamp, I put the screw back in the hole so I can find it later and remember where it goes. So I place that screw back there, place that screw back there, and let me get this hose out of the way so I can get to these two screws here. It should be 12. Then I can, heck, I don't even have to remove those two. I'll just remove these two 14s and that 14 down there. I could probably leave these two in, leaving that bracket against the lower mount brace. Looks like I will have to take this bracket loose in order to get that lower bolt loose. So we got a bolt here, a bolt here, and a bolt behind the bracket down there. Now that you got those 3 bolts out, you're going to rock this off of here. It's got holding pins on it. And there you have it. Got that out of the way. Now you got 2 10s in your cam position sensor, and the cam seals behind that. And you'll see if it's leaking. Definitely know this thing's leaking. Look how far that plug is hanging out. Got those 2 10s out of there. Very little oil. Since you're not messing with the timing belt, there's no reason to put locking tools or anything on here for these rear seals. That's the front of the head. This is the back of the head. These are the rear. You have the intake cam, the exhaust cam. The exhaust cam is close to the exhaust. The intake is close to the intake. Now, you got a 10mm screw in there holding this pickup ring for the cam sensor. See, that's all wet. This thing is key. Only goes on and off one way. But if you want to make a little mark, or with a Sharpie or something, so you can remember how it came off, you can do that. We got a bump here, bump here, bump here, and a notch there. So my notch is at 6 o'clock. That's how I'm gonna try to put it back on, providing that it doesn't move much when I go to knock it off here. Let's see if it moves when I put Henry on here to knock it off. Knock it off, Henry. Nope, barely moved it off. Pull that off. You see the cam is basically 12 and 6 o'clock. This thing is keyed. It's got the 12 o'clock and let's call it 2 o'clock. And there you got the 12 o'clock up here, that 2 o'clock there. So when this goes back on, it's going to go back on so that that stuff falls in place. That cam seal is hanging out. I do have my pusher tools with me, so we're going to pull that out, push that in. Somebody just didn't push these things in, man. That's my take on this. That seal popped right out real easy with my little hook tool here. I'm gonna try to grab the bottom of this plug and pull it out as well with this thing. See if I could get that to pull that out, or I'll use some screwdrivers or something. Try to work this plug out without just poking a hole in it. But if we gotta knock a hole in it, we will. It's coming out. Put my hook on the bottom of it, knock the plug right out. Somebody had knocked a hole in this plug before, so they were reusing this plug, and they put RTV on it to seal it. Man, just get another seal. They're like 12 bucks. So I'm gonna clean that up, put an internal cam seal in there, put another cam seal in there with my tools, spray this stuff down and put this stuff back together. That's how you do it, folks. This is the seal that the owner's going back in with. Rear cam seal. Looks like he got plugs. That thing there came out. That's what's coming in. Not the same seal, but hey, I'm not at the point where I'm turning around now, so I've really advised you guys to get Volvo seals. Got this thing on my tool. I'll press it in here, get it set the right depth, and work on this intake side. Got the seal pressed all the way in. Tool comes right out. Set in nice and even the whole way around. I'm gonna go ahead and put that ring sensor. Tighten that down. Just snug it down. It don't need to be torqued. Maybe 10 foot-pounds if you want. Then I'm gonna work on cleaning up this side and putting this one in. I went to go put a cam seal in there, and FCP Solar got 2 front cam seals, 1 rear cam seal, and no seal or plug for this. So we can't even close up that hole. Got to run back to the dealer. Now I sent the owner to the dealer to get the Volvo official plug that goes at the bottom of that oil trap box. This is the one that FCP sent him, told him it was OEM, and they have different markings, and the rubber looks different and everything on the back of it. So I'm glad he went and got the Volvo one. I really don't like taking chances on aftermarket parts. As far as I know, this is a URO one that Rains bought from URO. I don't know. I want it in the Volvo wrapper, please. Thank you very much. The one we got from Volvo's on the left. The one we got from the Rains wrapper is on the right. The silver is definitely different. And like I said, they got different markings on the back of there. That says CRP Industries, whatever that means. You know, I just want the Volvo part, please, on this PCV stuff. It's too much work. You can go 2 ways on this intake. On Red Baron, I put the inner seal in and threw the outer plug as a dust cover. But you could do the outer plug only. That thing is like $7 at the dealer. The inner seal is about $27. Before we take this banjo bolt loose, we got to get under the car and drain about a gallon of the coolant out. We're going to put it in this pan and reuse it. Good for me, has the Volvo style drain plug, 13 millimeter. Screw it, a few turns, it'll open up. Take the cap off the bottle, it'll flow and fill up your drain pan. Now that I've drained some coolant, I'm going to remove this hose. I already closed the coolant drain. I think I got enough out. Get that hose out of the way so I can rock that intake manifold up and get that 17 millimeter from under it. I put my pivot wrench on it, got it under there, broke it loose, lifted the manifold up to get that thing started. So let me go ahead and get that bolt the rest of the way out and work on getting that intake manifold out of the way. Got all this stuff on the back since I put that cam seal in, waiting for this plug here. I'm trying to get this intake out of the way with the throttle body still on there and that pipe. So I put something under there to lift this intake up, so I'm gonna try to get these screws out. Now I think probably the easiest thing to do would be to move this power steering line, but I'm gonna try to leave that on as well. Get this bolt out down here. That bolt right there, man, that's the worst One of the worst bolts Volvo has. Look at that thing. Horrible bolt. The bolt is out of the intake manifold, laying on the alternator. So I'm going to try to maneuver this intake manifold, see if I can get that out of the way. I'm going to take this hose off right here so I don't damage that. Not sure where that's going, but it's not on right, it's collapsed. I got that line loose, and technically everything off that manifold except the intake. I'm going to unplug those two plugs just to make sure I don't damage those. But I'm going to lift it up real slow and watch that, see if it gets any stress on it. Those two plugs there. You got to be very careful if you unplug those two plugs. I was trying to maneuver the intake off. It didn't really want to come off. I grabbed it right here in the middle and jerked it, and it came off of the screws. Now I'm going to try to pivot it out of the way, see if I can get to that oil trap box. I maneuvered the intake up about this far. I got the tube resting on whatever this stuff is up here. I do have room to work on getting this box out of here and changing that mushy little seal down there. See that thing? It's a freaking shame. Aftermarket, man, can't do that. And we'll get that box out and take this tube off of here and make sure this is clear going into this banjo bolt. Spray that with brake parts cleaner, clean it down there to your tube there. Make sure this tube is not clogged. So when you take that off that box, spray down in there, spray that way, make sure that stuff's cleared out. Folks, we got the box removed. Look at that piece of bubble gum. And it's got some buildup down in there. So we're gonna pull that thing off. Gosh, I don't even know how they had that thing on there. Looked like they put it on backwards. This bubble gum. Thing's leaking oil. So I'm gonna clean that out. Not too bad. Make sure that's clean. Put the new box on and new parts on it. Put everything back together. This box feels a little heavy, but usually I don't replace these unless somebody wants them replaced. I only seen one damaged ever. The car had overheated, melted the box, but you may be able to clean this out. Let me feel it compared to the other one. It does feel heavier. Let me see if I got my scale. I'll weigh it. I don't have one of them special scales that people weigh powdery stuff with. I got a fishing scale that weighs up to 50 pounds. So I'm gonna keep working. All right, so I'm spraying in there. You see it coming out of that hose. This bi hose is clear. If you feel that this information was useful, please like it and share it with your social media friends. You can subscribe to my channel so that you will get notifications of future videos that I post. You can follow me on Twitter, and if you need to contact me directly, please visit my website. And if you have any questions, leave them below, and someone or myself will reply to them. Again, thank you very much for watching.